Welcome to Caleb's Basketball Pod. So for this episode, there's a lot that happened NBA-wise over the weekend. Let's start off with our conference number 1 and 2s for the first time since 2012 facing off on the same day. So we had Boston at Cleveland, number 2 at number 1. Then we had Oklahoma and Houston, number 1 and number 2. Oklahoma being 1, Houston being number 2. Cleveland won against Boston, and Houston won against Oklahoma. Houston stays a half a game behind Oklahoma, and Cleveland stays number 1 in the Eastern Conference. So I want to start with those games. First off, those are big testing points, I want to say, for Cleveland and Houston. We know how good Oklahoma is. They went into last year's playoffs, Western Conference, number 1. We know how good they are. Houston's the team that we're in the West. We're wondering, is this a Cinderella story? Is it going to end? I'll get more into that in a little bit. But I want to say this game, before I go into a deeper dive on Houston in a little bit, this game was for Houston to prove they belong. And they went a long way towards proving they belong. And people are going to say, oh, Chet Holmgren didn't play this or that. It doesn't matter. These Rockets right now, they're for real. They're playing amazing basketball. Like I said, I'm going to deep dive into that in a little bit. We also had the Washington Wizards go winless in the month of November. I'll deep dive into that too. But let's get back to Cleveland and Boston. So Cleveland took a odd approach at the end of that game. If you watched it, the last 34 seconds lasted 17 minutes real time. Very odd approach. Now I get it, as in Kenny Atkinson, the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, did not want Boston shooting a 3 to potentially tie the game, because they lead the league in most 3-pointers attempted and most 3-pointers made, and they're the NBA champions. So of course you trust that Boston's going to hit that 3 if they get that look, any look, to be honest. So there's that. But people's going to criticize Atkinson's stance and how he went about it and this and that, but a win's a win. He got the W. It may not be fun, and it may not be great basketball to watch 34 seconds less than 17 minutes, but when you're a coach and this is your job to win, you have to do what it takes to win. So I myself, I'm not one for that strategy, because I do coach basketball, and if I was coaching basketball, I would tell my team, want them off the 3-point line, don't give up a 3. If you do, don't foul, and give you up early enough where you still have time to get a quality shot to win the game when it's tied. So that's my stance on it, but it's not everybody's, and you have to do what it takes to win, and he did what it takes to win, and he won the game. And I just want to say this real quick on that. People's going to talk about Jaylen Brown not playing, Derek White not playing, none of that matters. First game that Boston won by 3 points, Cleveland pretty much had no wings whatsoever. No Okoro, no LeVert, no Dean Wade, no Strus, no small forwards playing on the roster. So there's no wings for Cleveland in game 1, and then there's no Brown and White for Boston in game 2. So we have not necessarily seen either team at full strength, but I do want to say this: if that's a preview from those two matchups alone of, say, the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm down for it, because those were two very entertaining games. It was intense until the end, until the final buzzer, and each team won respectively on their own home court. So I just want to say that. Now let's get to winless November for Washington. At Washington's just built bad. There's just not a lot of bright spots there. I like Karabali, I believe his name is. He's been good. He's a bright spot for them. We're seeing glimpses of Saw, the rookie, the number 2 pick. I like him. I think he's getting it. 3-pointers aren't his vein right now, so he needs to not really shoot those at this point. He needs to work on them a little bit more before he takes those. We are seeing good defense from that young man. He averages about two blocks a game. Impressive in the NBA. So I mean that's good. We see a couple bright spots, but you have Valanciunas that you overpaid to probably trade. I don't necessarily get that or get why it was done. You have Jordan Poole on the roster, and he's not good for the formula of winning. Then you have Kyle Kuzma on the roster, and I don't necessarily get. He signed there for the money, signed the extension there for the money, but he's in trade discussions now. They said teams like Milwaukee, which fortunately can't get him because they're in the second tax apron, but teams like Milwaukee, LA, Miami, Golden State, and Cleveland's all watching him. It'll be interesting to see if one of them do get him and see if he can push a team like that over the edge of championship contention. Speaking of Cleveland in general, they're probably a real small forward away from actually being taken more serious as championship contenders. But nonetheless, that's where we are with that. Like I said, I just don't think that Washington's built to win. Them and Utah look primed for the Cooper Flagg lottery, as Utah had I don't even know what it was, but their coach called a timeout when Colin Sexton had a wide open lane to the basket for a game-winning layup against the Lakers last night. So they had a fumble there, but hey, they're in that Cooper Flagg lottery, so that's interesting too. Now let's jump into the Houston Rockets. They lead, like I said, take a deeper dive into them. They lead the league in rebounds at 50 per game. They're number 11 in points per game, and they are number 3 in opponents' points per game, which is very impressive. I love what Ime Udoka's done with that Houston team in just 2 seasons' time, and that's why I don't believe it's a Cinderella story that's going to end. Not saying that I don't believe there'll be a top 3 or 4 team in the Western Conference. I do think there'll be around that 5th or 6th seed in the West. Which is impressive because the Western Conference is stacked. I think as the season goes on and those vet players on championship caliber teams like Luka, Kyrie in Dallas, Clay, Steph, Draymond in Golden State, Jokic, Murray in Denver, guys like that will take over down the stretch and give their team a better seed. And even Memphis is number 3 in the Western Conference right now. So even a team like Memphis, I think they'll stay around that area. I don't think Houston will be in the play-in. I think that's a big win for them. I think they'll be able to sit home comfortably when the play-in's going, knowing that they've already clinched a 5th or 6th seed in the Western Conference playoffs, which is huge for a team like them. And like I said, in so far just not even 2 seasons' time, that Ime Udoka has had the Houston Rockets club, they're a million times better. 2 seasons ago, if you guys remember, guys were saying that they were worse than the G League team. That at least the G League team would have put in effort and tried defensively. So if you remember that, to see where they're at now, he's just changed the culture, and I have to give it up to Ime Udoka. He did the same with Boston, where Boston was struggling before he took over as the coach. We know he got let go because of some stuff that went on there in Boston, but nonetheless, he still changed the culture in Houston, and he's not been let go. So apparently he's been doing fine, we hope, with everything, and no allegations or no accusations or him doing stuff he shouldn't be doing right now against him, which that's great. And he's changed how even the league looks at the Houston Rockets, and I love it. The Rockets, you had the James Harden era, where they were number 1, number 2 in the West every year, competing with Golden State. You had the Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming era, where that was some fun basketball to watch during that time. So I like seeing the Rockets up in the higher echelon of the Western Conference. So I just want to give a hand to, like I said, Udoka and just the whole Rockets squad. Even the general manager, though. The contracts to to re-sign, re-up Şengün, Jalen Green, good deals. I think those guys are your future. Also, the Fred VanVleet pickup that people were a little iffy on when they first did. They have Steven Adams over there. They've drafted well, and these guys are just they're doing their spot. Everyone knows what their role is. Everybody's doing their role, and I love that. And like I said, I'm a big fan of this Houston team. For all those League Pass watchers out there, check out the Houston Rockets. They're playing entertaining, really good basketball right now. So, like I said, just keep an eye out for them right now, because also with them beating Oklahoma, I believe they belong in that 1, 2, 3 seeding area of the Western Conference, because why wouldn't you? You beat the team that was number 1 last season, and they've been number 1 for a better part of this season so far, and you beat them last night. So Houston believes they belong. So keep an eye out for the Rockets. You know they're going to compete, and Udoka's going to have them gunning for a higher seed than just the 5th or 6th seed. That's just my prediction, but they're gunning for higher than that. And they have a roster too. If they keep everything together and they play this consistent basketball, I like that team. So, like I said, be on the lookout for them. But nonetheless, we're finishing up the NBA Cup on Tuesday, the group rounds, and then we should get to our seeding and see where everyone pans out in the elimination rounds. So if all that information is known on Wednesday is going to be an NBA Cup elimination round preview, and that's going to be fun. We know, speaking of Houston, they're going. Golden State's going to the elimination round. Atlanta's going to the elimination round, and that's as far. I think that's all that's clinched so far. But you have teams like Milwaukee, New York, Orlando, all playing really good. In the Cup right now, Oklahoma, I believe, still in it. It's just a lot of good basketball, and it means something, because you get these guys get money for this. It means something to them. So you put money on the line, and they're playing for it. And I'm loving what I'm seeing, and I'm very interested to see how this pans out. And like I said, if all goes right and everything's known about the elimination round, who's in it, Wednesday's going to be our NBA Cup elimination round preview, so stay tuned. That episode's going to be a blast. Interesting to see how Atlanta's been playing in these Cup games. Atlanta is playing really good basketball. They've beat Boston, number 2 in the East, and Cleveland, number 1 in the East in these Cup games. So keep an eye out for the Hawks too. We've seen Trae Young set career-high 22 assists against Cleveland this past Wednesday. So, yeah, Atlanta is playing some good ball. The young wings like Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, Bogdanovich, all these guys, they're playing really good basketball. And they're hitting shots. That's what you want from guys like that. Like Trae's driving, he's getting the defense on him, he's kicking. These guys are hitting shots. And that's what you need if you're Atlanta, and the offense looks like it's starting one smooth. So, like I said, keep an eye on the Hawks too. And just one last shout out before I'm done with this episode. The Milwaukee Bucks started the season off really bad, and people's going to say, oh, their schedule got easier, but does it matter? You're winning games like you're supposed to. They're finally doing what they're supposed to, and before they weren't beating the teams they were supposed to. Now they're beating the teams they're supposed to. They play Boston this Friday. That's a matchup to watch and see if they have progressed since the last time they played Boston. Last time they played Boston, they kind of fell apart in that second half. Boston took over and won, not easily, but kind of going away down the stretch. Milwaukee made a lot of bad moves, bad possessions down the stretch. Boston took over. So did they progress enough? Did they make moves? And are they a different team than we saw like a week and a half ago when they played Boston on a Sunday and kind of fell apart in the second half? Well, we'll see. And that game will be really interesting to watch. And Dallas has won 6 straight. Not like anyone should be surprised by that. Kyrie Irving is playing amazing basketball. Luka returned last night with a near triple-double to beat the Portland Trailblazers. They've won 6 straight, so keep an eye out for those two teams. And we're still also watching the Sixers, and we want to see if they turn things around. We haven't seen Embiid or George on the court in a while, but they need to start clicking now. They need to start getting guys on the floor healthy, because you're in a hole. You're in a deep, deep hole that you need to dig your way out of. So it'll be also interesting to see if they can do that. But nonetheless, this NBA season's really interesting. I'm loving it so far. And we have a really competitive season that looks like it's a lot of different teams. It would not be surprising if they won the NBA Finals. So that's what you want, because you don't want every year where you know the teams that will be in the finals. That gets boring. So it's interesting to see where these teams go. Also want to shout out Mikal Bridges for the New York Knicks, who had 7 3-pointers yesterday in a blowout of the Pelicans for the Knicks. If he can stay consistent, the Knicks are going to be a problem in the Eastern Conference. So keep an eye out for them too. And the Orlando Magic playing amazing basketball without Paolo Banchero, which is a little surprising that they're looking this good without him. But Franz Wagner has really stepped it up. So again, not the team to look out for, but like I said, the season's just getting good, getting interesting. Like, stick with us here, and we're going to keep previewing or talking about what's happened and give some good depth and some good insight on everything going on in the NBA. So stay tuned and check out the Cup Elimination Round episode on Wednesday.